Holly's favorite song.
Holly does like that song. What's up, Mario? Does, It's not 10:20 West time, dude. Stop spreading disinformation, Mario.
West time.
Okay, so we're here. It's Thursday. It is another week, and it's been a long day already. I had to get up really early, and I feel like crap. And it's the first. Whoa! I don't want to hear myself talk. I hate how I sound. I got an echo.
Imagine how we feel.
Yeah, I don't understand. It was interesting this morning because it's the first time I've had someone try to keep paying me when I've kind of said stop paying me and we don't want to do this anymore. Let's not do this. And
because of their CMS, yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting conversation because I started laughing and I really did with them.
I couldn't believe it. He was selling us hard. No, keep taking my money and try this. Okay.
It was those markets are fun, but when people don't make programming decisions that are great, it can turn things into nightmares. That's for sure. But
it was only on this one site that they had. They have a multitude of sites, and as far as I know, this is the only one with the custom stuff, right?
It's the only one that it has issues, and
I assume this one is their guinea pig to see if they could actually create a CMS that would work better. And they failed, but don't want to admit it.
Yeah,
at that, not as a company, but yeah.
No, they're good as a company. But what's interesting is I think that there's a lot of business decision in there, and I think that's important to note. That sometimes we get to kind of help people fix the decisions they've made in the past, right? By making things work when they probably shouldn't work, and taking the extra time to make it work, but.
Even if it's a decision like, hey, I got my whole website built on Squarespace, and
right,
I think it's pretty cool. And you're
I don't know. Have you guys ever run into that? Because I've run into the custom CMS things quite a few times, and a lot of the times when someone has written a custom CMS, you can look at millions of dollars or $1 million or hundreds of thousands of dollars that are put into this, and then there is sometimes the lack of wanting to pull the Band-Aid at that point when it has become an obvious thing that maybe it's time to shift off from that vision into something else. In e-commerce, Ted, I know that there's a lot of custom dev there too, like what we did in publishing. Did you guys have situations that you kind of or have you been in those situations, man?
Yeah, it's always a trade-off. So when you're a small business, you kind of like the off-the-shelf solutions because they keep your feature set modern and they allow you to keep your engineering staff to a minimum. But as you grow as a company, you find that those off-the-shelf solutions, they're always like 60% of what you need them to be. And so when you grow to a certain scale, nothing beats custom. And so what you see is as a business gets bigger and bigger, they drop the off-the-shelf things for custom engineering.
Yep, they do. And go ahead, Corey.
Well, I mean, when you're working, I think in a situation like that, I've only had just a handful of them, but I always tell them we're not going to touch the site. I don't even we don't need any kind of FTP or login. I've done FTP before, but I just tell them put us in touch with your developers because we're gonna give them all of the updates and have them touch the site. We're not going to touch it.
Usually you need a developer working on. Go ahead, Ted.
I was going to say you have to do that because when you get to a certain caliber of an online retailer, they have PCI compliance issues. They can't give you source code access or logins to the server. It's never going to happen.
No.
So all you can do is direct them on how to make the changes, but you're working with teams that actually do the work.
Yeah.
And the way we've kind of worked that out is we have setups where we have automatic reporting that goes into Slack. We have staff that go in and they work hand in hand with the development team. And
it's the only way we could have done a few contracts.
Yeah, I mean, you need that kind of communication with that team that you're almost in-house with them. I've been I've had in-source staff. I have worked in buildings consulting. I have worked in buildings doing SEO. and having access directly to those developers like right away is optimal in my opinion, because you can catch the issues quickly. Like there's situations where I've seen where it's like, okay, the lead developer that knows everything about the CMS is now on maternity leave for 2 months, right? And now you're dealing with like people that know half as much as she does, and you're putting out fires left and right, you know, and we're talking about large fires when you talk about custom CMSs, right? Those are big, you know?
You know, the cool thing is that scale changes everything. So when people see an enterprise SEO, you know, most SEOs are like in shock and awe. Oh, right. You do SEO for Expedia. You must be the most amazing SEO that ever lived.
You don't have to be.
It's actually not true. When you get a mountain of authority just out of the starting gate, you know, the first thing that goes away is link building. That's why all the enterprise SEOs think you're a moron if you're building links, because they don't need it. They have
on the opposite end too, though. We have had some in the payday niche where we had one of the top payday lenders in the nation. We got them as a client, luckily. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get in, optimize their content because of the nature of their business. So all we were able to do was link build fucking 20 minutes a month, and we blew it out of the park. I think it was like a 12 to 14
direction
day.
link building is lovely, or content.
But you know, on the other end of the spectrum, when you're not working with like a PageRank 8 domain name, when you're working with small businesses, like a few backlinks means all the difference. It totally changes the phone ringing. And you get this thing where they're two totally different skill sets, you know, enterprise SEO and small business SEO, completely different skill sets. And what you'll find is those enterprise SEOs who pretend to be gods can't rank a plumber to save their life.
Yeah.
Super, super true. That is a good point. Go ahead. Who was going to jump in?
Well, even there, GMB is a different beast too, you know, if you're looking. So
depending on who you talk to, like I know, you know, the guys that we work with and we do like restricted stuff with, you know, getting into like the marijuana markets, the gaming markets, things like that. They'll look at local, and you know, they can rank go out and rank a casino super quick, but they won't touch the local because it's just not their thought process. They don't have the system set up for it. And some of them will look at it like, well, that's not even SEO, right? That's not SEO. That's local. This is not. No, this just put up a GMB or do this, blah blah blah. But it is very interesting to look at the different schools of thought and look at it going from like a restricted campaign where you're fighting in the trenches every day with people that are fighting back constantly to a localized campaign. It is a super different mindset needed, in my opinion. And every time I've been heavy into like restricted markets, high competition markets, then stepped out and done lower competition, I always kind of go like, whoa, this is like, it's the same thing, but it's not as aggressive and high. I know it feels weird. I don't know how to explain it. It's not as aggressive, not as high pace. Feels like a few things here and there will push everything versus like.
You don't need thousands of niche edits in a local, standpoint. Yeah.
I'm looking at an e-commerce campaign right now that's in, I would call it like a mid-competition market, right? And, you know, it's one of those ones where it's great because depending on who they are, you walk into these, and this one is out of the US, and you walk into it and you see, okay, this literally just needs like a few links everywhere where it makes sense, and then you're going to turn the whole thing and it's going to turn it around. And it just happens very quickly. So I find it very interesting how different it can be looking at those campaigns. Corey, do you have like hey, what's up, Fletch, man? Did you catch what we were talking about?
A little bit of it. I had to reboot my computer, so it took a second.
No worries.
Yep.
Talking about the difference between local and like higher competition restricted markets, and I feel that like I always feel like when I go from one to the other that there's like to me there's a large difference, right? A large difference in how the campaign feels, and I'm wondering like what kind of spread you guys have in your work and what you're doing day to day when it comes to
almost everything that I've done. I say 90% of it has been local. There's exceptions in firearms. Paper companies, like some bigger corporate things, they weren't
Dunder
restricted
Mifflin?
markets.
Did you do work for Dunder Mifflin?
I wish.
Paper, reams.
Yeah, it was, hammer mill paper. So,
right.
Yeah, and so, but even in that, like one of the things that we looked at was like trying to like look for traffic and see what they could rank for. And so we built out like a whole section of their website that was like origami and paper airplane plans and things like that were just, you know, some branding, some extra traffic coming in that made sense. But most of what I've done, most of what I've made money with has been local. So, and honestly, most of what I've done has been making money with organic local. It doesn't mean that we ignore GMBs, but there's a lot that you can get as far as traffic goes, even without GMBs. I know that's kind of the hot topic and everything else, but you know, if I'm gonna spend my time working on clients, I want to be 100% certain that we can get them results for what they want to do,
for sure.
and it has to fit their budget. And a lot of them have decent budgets for what they're doing, and so, you know, kind of sticking with that plan and that approach has worked, you know, well over, what has this been, almost 9 years now.
You're seeing, are you seeing that when you start pushing and focus on it from an organic perspective that the GMBs just push up anyway?
Yeah, correct. Yep. Yeah, for the most part.
That's what
you're getting that GMB traffic regardless.
And so I assume you are doing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know the answer to this because we talked, but I assume you're doing what we talked about and what the event is about this year, which is focus on making sure that you've got everything proper for your user, and worry about the tech and worry about the actual algorithms at the same time and pull it all up that way.
Like one of the things that can be frustrating in the SEO industry is that, you know, it's kind of like we have a general idea of what's going to work, but it's not like if you're wrenching on an engine where if you've got air, fuel, and spark, the thing's going to turn over, right? It's like, well, you know, there's times.
Imagine you need air, fuel, spark, and gyms are always changing their algorithm
and some different X factor. It's like maybe you need more air, more spark, and it's not just dependent on altitude or something like that.
Depends on the car you're driving, where you are.
And so that was always something that was, I guess, a little bit like frustrating. And then I was just like, well, I can operate over here, and air, fuel, and spark work like literally 100% of the time, and there's a market for it, and that's what I'm going to focus on, right? And so that's
how you scale too, right?
And so, you know, I'm working on close to 200 clients close to it right now, and they all have results and they're all happy, and you know, there's some screwballs that, you know, have some different ideas about how things should go, but for the most part, the relationships are pretty sound. The results are very dependable, you know, with what we do.
And you know that going into it when you look at it, like you know your easy wins and more your midterm. But
you know, and that can be the frustrating thing too, though. Like knowing that, like when you're working on something and you know everything is the way it should be, and then you know that there's technical issues that are like holding handcuffs onto it, and when it comes down to now it's time.
That's when I call Mike.
Well, dude, that's when I call a developer, but right? No, but seriously, that can be frustrating, especially when people think they know what they're talking about, and the answer is just add more content or something.
And in most cases, they do. I mean, in that particular individual, in most cases, he does know what he's talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Like when you have a strategic.
Not in most cases, your clients know what they're talking about. This guy.
Right. I got what you're saying. Like so, when you're in a situation, you're working as a team, and like there is the standard in industries, right? And you're looking at a campaign, and you know that you're spot on, and people want you to keep pushing for those gaps. Like, where's the gap? Where's the gap? And you can look at everything and say, well, I know that this is where it should be. We don't need to tweak this. The answer lies in the success is there, but it lies in a completely different way and a different path than what people expect it is. And instead of becoming like, let's fix this page, it can become, let's fix 15 pages. And then let's build links to 15 pages.
Well, that's what happens when you revolve your SEO strategy around clustering, right? Which is the way to go. But the one topic page results in you editing or
Well,
optimizing 15 additional pages.
That goes back to how you're like, if you're structuring a national campaign versus a local. Like
Yeah.
the local campaigns typically that we sell are keyword based. The national campaigns are content based, and the list is constantly growing every month because there's deliverables that are, around certain keywords that we track. So, just framing it from the very beginning and looking really at the difference between those local and those national campaigns. I typically focus on a minimum of 5 like meaningful keywords. Obviously, the website
I got a question.
jumps for a lot more, but
like, I don't really believe in that there is actually like an exact match or a phrase match anymore. And I'm wondering what you guys all think. Like, there's a topic, right? The query has a topic surrounding it and a bunch of match words that Google recognizes as
a category. Right? So yeah, I sell them as categories basically.
Do you sell them? That's what I was wondering.
Buckets.
And Ted, what's your thoughts on that? Like on that, right? I'm not saying there's no keyword density, but you know what I mean, I think.
I've been looking at clustering very closely for about the past 3 weeks and soliciting examples of pages that rank for hundreds, if not thousands of keywords, and looking at what's actually going on. And the best that I can tell, what I see happening is that, in the old way, you go back 10 years, the long tail keyword approach was you'd tune one keyword per page, but you'd tune them for long tail keywords that were easy to rank for. And by doing that, you would capture long tail traffic. So that way died. And what's come out of it is now there's a cost of entry to play the long tail traffic game. You must first rank for one keyword.
Yes, dude, I love it. Yes.
And then upon successfully doing that, you can pepper that page with closely related keywords, and you will pick up broad match organic traffic.
That's it. Exactly right, dude.
And then there's a problem, though, in that you can't drift too far from that keyword you rank for. So if you have a plumber who's also an electrician and they create a web page that is plumbing and electrical, they are shooting themselves in the foot because electrical is too far from plumbing. They need to separate those services onto different pages, rank for those services independently, and then they can pepper them with closely related terms to expand.
It's very interesting that you said it that way, because this is kind of like what we've all in NFG, we talk about like cognitive SEO, because there are some things that cognitive SEO does at the end of its content optimization that are helpful for people that want to just look at one thing and get an answer for a cheap, easy way to go rank for a bunch of additional keywords that are related on an individual page. But what I think people need to take out of that right there is that there is a process, and that is the process that we're talking about this year directly, which is content goes up. It's targeting what you have done your proper research on, and you go up and you do this. And after that, there is exclusion, there is inclusion, and now it's now building this lexicon on the page to match what Google is looking at with some of their transformer stuff, like with MUM, and then some of the other stuff that they're actually doing. There's so many freaking things they're doing, you can't talk about it all. But one of the things I think that's what we've been seeing people missing the most of in their campaigns, because when you say that rank for one and start pulling them in, what I'm also seeing is that when the usage of the users change, like I've seen campaigns that are at that point that do well, and then something happens with the traffic flow and the click stream, and then there's adjustments on how that is actually affecting all of the additional, I call them match, for lack of a better term, I call them match words, or I call it the lexicon, whatever we want to call it. And it shifts how the site is delivered for that. And as they continue to move forward, it really does get me back to the way they build their universal search, man, and their blended search, and going back to local and different content types. There is the topic and context, and then there is the what's performing well. When it comes to this, though, the title rewrites, are you seeing it flagged and triggered based on optimization points? And that's why they're rewriting it, because there's two schools right now, flag and triggered, or they're doing it in the industry. But I think it might be flag and triggered because of the optimization. I don't know.
The big thing right now is, does the title text impact your rankings?
Right.
And what we're seeing when we measure it, and we've measured hundreds of these already, is that when Google can't pick between two title rewrites, they will actually split test, 2, 3, 4 of them. And when we see them picking one of the split tests, it absolutely does impact rankings.
So what I think, and what I think I'm seeing in a lot of spaces, is that if you are spot on, like in industries where people are affected, we're not, right? And it's because they're not rewriting our titles, right? And I think it's because of the optimization and how they're looking at that page and how they're building that decision. And it's getting closer to what you should be, rather than all over the place with what we're talking about. And I don't know what your thoughts are there.
Well, what we're seeing is we're identifying the zones where Google is pulling title text from. So it's not just the title tag, it's H1s, it's H2s,
it's imagery, it's
URL.
Yeah.
And it's also anchor text off page.
Yep. It's off page, and they've specified that in their documentation now too.
Yeah, and
exactly.
We've seen that in the data. So we've confirmed that Google is drawing from those locations. It can also rarely be sentences from your content.
Yeah.
And what we're finding is that there's this detrimental thing that people have done where they put dynamic text in H1s, like say it's a category page, and they put their pagination text into the heading. And on one day they sell out of the product, and so the number of results in that H1 pagination text changes. Now you have two very closely related H1s that score about the same in the NLP, and now Google is split testing your H1s. And one of them, because it's newer, will rank 6 positions higher than the one that's older, or vice versa.
So would you think it's safe to tell people that if they're seeing this happen to them, that they need to look at some of these optimization points and fix these optimization points so that they're not either rewriting it or split testing? Because I'm seeing them stick locations that are wrong in places based on stuff done on page and off page. Like, it's a nightmare for some people.
The big takeaway is you need to get dynamic text out of your headings if Google is selecting that dynamic text as your title. And you also need to get strict about your branding. The capitalization. Are you using .com? Are you using comma incorporated? Are you, when you have multiple forms of your brand, Google doesn't know which form to pick, and they start split testing based on your multiple brand formatting. So you got to get really strict about all these little details now. Because the largest difference we've seen in the split testing was about 20 positions in Google. And
that's
imagine that site wide, that's
so Ted, to piggyback on that, Ted, and I don't know if you've seen this in the real world, but I had a client who just randomly changed their logo. It still had the business name in it, but they were like, oh, we're going to do something cool for Halloween or for because they sold apparel. And then so I'm doing SEO on the site for about 9 months, and then Halloween comes around, and all they did was change the logo site wide. I noticed some drops, and I went and looked at the site, and I was like, what are you guys thinking? So
they said Pornhub does it all the time.
Right. So comment on that, Ted, and kind of like you got into branding.
Well, my first assumption is something probably changed in the alt text if they weren't careful. So
I'm also noticing them pick up overlay text as well in imagery in a lot of cases too. So I have a feeling that with the multimodal stuff and what they're doing,
I depend on them picking up overlay text like that.
Well, so do I, but I'm noticing them use it for the title rewrites is what I'm saying. They're taking into consideration all the multimedia and everything. So
that's why
I think there's a lot there, dude. I don't know, Ted, go for it, because I think there's a lot there when you start changing major pieces like the brand identity. Personally, I think that's where it's going towards, but we'll see.
Yeah. So, dates, product counts, inconsistent branding. These are the things that are tripping people up because they've coded it into headings and now Google's putting it into titles.
Yep. No, that actually it's interesting, and I do want to wrap around to some of the questions we have on the local stuff, but it's a very interesting time, and I think it touches on why it's so important to have a process and why I like tools like Keyword Cupid that can go in and actually pull the data that's out there and give a pathway for the tightness and the context of what's happening with this grouping and with these match words on page that we've been using, in our content and SEO for a long time to rank up for lots of keywords. But I think it's even more important now. What I'm seeing a lot of people, again, I know I'm saying this a lot, but they keep using NLP tools and leaving it there, and they keep leaving it and setting it, forgetting it, instead of coming back to a piece of content and then optimizing it and letting it mature and grow into actually a better producing piece of content, right? I've got at least 3 phases and stages where I like to optimize when content goes up. And
good thing, because that's as high as I can count.
Exactly. That's why we picked it. 3.
Yeah, 3. Keep it under 3.
And you made a good point. I wanted to reiterate the off page, and I don't think people have really thought about it a lot. But one of the reasons in a lot of our campaigns we're not being affected is because we have our off page game super on point. And it really does go a long way to protect against certain things happening when you build the context in a structure like that with an on-page and off-page cluster. So I would recommend paying attention to it for those in the audience. Some of the questions we had today were directly around affordable SEO services. And so I wanted to talk about pricing because we had a ton of questions come in. Fletch, anyone doing local SEO, that would be Fletch and Corey, because I don't do it.
There was also a question that came in a second ago, Mike.
Okay, let's do that first.
In regards to Fletch's day, having 200-ish clients, how do you manage, how to, all that good stuff. It was up a little bit.
All right, I'll bring it up. I'm going to find it right now. So
yeah, it's, Brian.
Okay, how's the, there we go.
Yep.
Bryn, yeah.
So the way I approach it is I kind of look at the priorities as far as the clients go. And one of the things that I do in regards to that is I know getting into a certain client is going to take a little bit of you're kind of getting over a threshold, getting in there, understanding what, their services are about, their market, all that kind of thing. So as I approach these, I get into a client and I try to get them done, so to speak. I get them to, like Mike was talking about, like phases. I get in there, I do the keyword research necessary. This actually kind of blends together some of the things Corey was talking about, as well as Ted. So with local clients, a lot of the focus I have is on content, right? And understanding how these clusters fit into the NLP, AI that search engines run, and content that we can develop that really comes in from a lot of different keyword research, as well as, Keyword Cupid, and understanding kind of a topic, and then deciding, whether we're going to have, one big piece of content and some supporting pages. But those supporting pages, you can't look at just one. You can't look at a cluster as divorced from every other cluster. The reason it's called the web is that everything is connected. And so there's going to be overlap in parts of your content that support other pages, may rank directly for certain search phrases and all that kind of thing. And so with each of these clients, I tend to try to get in there and understand what those topics are that we're going to try to build content for. And I'll just say content, because content includes links in and out, whether it's on site, off site, whatever it might be, right? We look at these, like, I think it's one of the things that helped me the most is when, I realized that a tier 2 or tier 3 link was actually It was a piece of content that happens to have a link that goes somewhere else. Right. And so when you can kind of shift your brain into thinking about, like Leo was on here a few weeks ago and he was talking about, you know, 100-dimensional space. You can't really envision it, but you can understand what's going on with that. And the fact that all these pages are linked to other pages, and you kind of decide on what your topic is, your main topic's going to be, that you want to go out and get traffic for all the search phrases that really support it, what content is necessary. And so most of my day revolves around going in, doing research, and then, you know, making decisions based on what content needs to be present for that thing to rank well. And, you know, power content, like these terms are really kind of almost amorphous. Like they can mean a bunch of different things depending on how you're looking at them. And they're not wrong or right, but being able to kind of shift your mind to look at things a little different. I look at almost all of SEO as content, right? Because everything that we do with SEO for the most part exists on a URL. And so that's a piece of content on the web. So getting into a specific client, I try to get to the point where I can understand the topical nature of the things that they should be positioned well for to get traffic that has, you know, buyer intent or just high volume that's going to bring more people on their website, and then lay out a plan of content to get ordered, and then understand what the optimization factors on those pieces of content are going to be about. And sometimes that takes a couple hours, and so I can knock out 3 or 4 in a day. Sometimes it takes longer if they're a bigger site and they have multiple services that they offer, multiple areas that they're in. And I like going in and out of a ton of different clients every day. I try not to do, because it takes a little while to kind of get in there and understand what they're about, where they are, different phrases and things like that. So I try, when I get into a client, I try to get them to a point where, okay, we've reached, you know, phase 1 completion or whatever we want to call it. And having that decided, content ordered, a plan for optimization on the pages that are going to be there. And then I go to the next one. And I just, you know, those are prioritized based on, you know, whether a client has been on board for a while and they're, you know, a little bit stuck, or, you know, they're getting great results. And so, you know, priorities, you know, Bryn, I know from OMG Machines, he's familiar with Mills's stuff, like strategy wise. Like I organize all of my client work based on priorities. And sometimes it's really easy. Sometimes it's really simple. And in those cases, you know, those people that are getting good results already with the process that's in place, well, you know, that might not even be a site that I really take a look at.
Can we make a statement? Is this fair to say, though, that you're not doing it by yourself completely? You have a team with you, and you have other people working other aspects of the business, correct? You're not managing the
business. Absolutely.
Yes.
I am.
You're not managing the business.
I am doing SEO. I talk with the sales side.
Yes, I want to make sure everyone is aware of that.
You know, and those folks do what
we don't need any suicides on our hands.
No, that's
trying to take on 200 clients at a time.
No, that's not. Yeah, managing personally, you know, if you get, like, if you're trying to do sales and running the business and doing everything like that, like if you're getting up above, even with local, if you're getting up above 25, 30 clients,
that'd be rough. Yeah.
A nightmare.
Yeah, it's brutal. And, you know, Bryn had another good question, though, here. Negotiating with for each piece of content doesn't seem feasible with 200 clients. So that's a good, I know Corey, Brad, and I, and we've gone through this crap before. I know everyone here probably has. So content approval, content this or that, compliance, everything like that. What are your thoughts on that, man?
So like with local, we don't deal, well, you know, you can deal with, you know, compliance and stuff if you're dealing with, you know, financial or, you know, real estate, some of these other things. We don't have a lot of that. So it's already worked in on the sales side to just say, hey, we're going to do this and you're cool with it. And so at that point, then I take over content strategy. Completely.
That's how I personally think that's the right way to handle it. We've of course worked with people with 13 attorneys on staff where we need to get approval for everything to happen.
Yeah, in that case though, we had to essentially train their writing staff, and it becomes more of a consulting aspect on that end of it.
Yeah, different deal.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Marijuana does have compliance. You must comply.
Also,
they do.
you get your content uploaded and then you just give them the keys, so it's going to sit in draft mode until you've gone over it. You know, some people are careful with their brand voice. You know, maybe our content writers.
I don't like working with people that are competent with their brand voice because they are pains in the asses a lot of times.
The nice thing is what you're doing.
What I don't want to happen, what has happened to me before, it's like, what have you done this month to get paid? I've fucking emailed you about 20 times trying to get you this content on. That's what I've done, but you haven't put anything on the site. I fucking can't, but have you done linking? I have nothing to link to, you know, and it's just this, okay, then I have to fight for a check. And then the next month I experience the same conversation.
Yeah, I hate that, dude. I honestly can't. That's why I don't do client.
That's when you drop it in. That's when you drop it into you upload it to their blog, you get it formatted, you get your everything ready for them to publish. And then whether they publish or not, you move on to the next month.
Deliverables are good, and that's why I think structuring stuff as a deliverable, where it comes to like the advertising package of content plus linking, essentially puts you in a place where you have a report and you can.
Yeah, it does get difficult when the editorial process goes beyond the end of the month. That is tough. That is tough.
So when it comes to the local stuff, Fletch, like, what do you think? Like, we got a lot of questions about affordable SEO, right? Affordable SEO services. So I kind of wanted to get everyone's thoughts on what the hell affordable
order
SEO
shit from
services
Fiverr.
are.
Doesn't matter what.
What are they? What are affordable? What is affordable? Like, how do you define affordable?
Depends on what margin you want to maintain. Or like, do you want to maintain a 90% margin on all of your services? And then you know what you're bringing in with said SEO. So do you want to maintain a 50% margin? Do you want to be like some people we've worked with in the past on SEO contracts and want to fucking burn everything the first 2 months and not make zero, the first few months, and then, go from there? I don't think it's a very good way to do it, but affordable is all relative to what you're bringing in, what you want to make.
One way to look at this is like, if I were building a construction website for myself, which, I've got a license, I'm not bonded currently, don't do any current work. Like, what I could rank for with, my knowledge and resources, like I could do that for, $500, $600 a month, like really, really easily. I could do it probably out of pocket for less than 100.
Yeah.
But
you could probably write your own content. The cost
I've
of
got
the
time
domain,
invested and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it just depends on how you want to approach the thing, and really kind of where the client is and all that kind of thing. The say sweet spot, but like where most of the clients that I work with is somewhere between like $1,500 and like $4,500 a month. There's some clients we have that pay more than that. They're typically multi-location, or they're like the big dog in plumbing in a major city or something like that. Yeah. But for the most part, in that range, there's tons of clients there at that price level. Like there's enough for you to build a very successful agency and do good work and still maintain good margins and have other people in place. Like, it's not like I have this, like I'm in-house for, other folks right now. For the most part, I
want to spin this a certain direction, because one of the things I see, and I know that no one here enjoys it, and I know I've had direct conversations with you, Fletch, about it, is that I don't like seeing the situations where I'm either talking to somebody that's had trouble in their small business, or someone's coming and looking for service, and I can tell what they're going to do because of what they talk about. And it's when people take on clientele, and they mark this stuff up like immensely, and then they really can't deliver successful results for what they can purchase things for. Mm-hmm. And they're marking that up on top of it. And so, like, I think it's important when we talk about affordable local SEO and affordable services, this and that for the business owners out there and for people that are working as their consultants or their firms, it's cheap is not always a good thing. And like what Clint said, affordable is relative to the cheapness of your target prospect, right? This is where the whole snake oil thing gets, it comes into play. And, there's people out there that have in the past that have take in the contract, and they'll that was their model. They'll take the contract and they'll just shove stuff at it so it ranks for a little while, and then they know that they're going to lose that client in 6 months because it's going to tank after 6 months, right? And that stuff sucks.
Honestly, with who I think you're talking about, they would have been better off if they just had not done anything.
Right?
Well,
got the check and not touch the site.
But the thing is, go ahead.
I think fundamentally, I mean, you have to have a sober conversation with yourself at the very beginning of all of this, because here's the thing. Like, if you create a business where if you go on vacation, the business comes to a screeching halt, that's not a business. That's a job. So you got to be able to go on vacation, and money still needs to be coming in for it to be a business. Because at the end of the day, when Frank from Frank's Quality TV Repair goes to sell the business, really he's just selling a van.
That's very true, man.
That's what that is. And then once you figure out your processes on how your business can make money even when you go on vacation, you get all that documented, you get your VAs, you're able to handle some scale, you need to price it right. And the number one thing, beginners in business do is they don't set a price where they can pay their bills and have a living wage. You got to figure out, what you're going to be able to handle time-wise and price it appropriately. And often
you should price according to the market in all situations.
That means saying no to people.
Correct.
That's very hard for new people in business to do. Saying no and walking away from money is very hard for a lot of people, for sure. And I think it's one of the things that's a huge hurdle in newer marketers out there, is that they really don't understand that it's gonna hurt much worse down the line when they take all of this work and they take all this on, and they take a bunch of money and they can't fulfill it, rather than saying no to one or two people, or even in a market that they're just not priced competitively enough. They don't have the resources to do it as cost efficiently as their competitors do. That might not be the best market to be in while you're at that stage of your business, right?
Well, and one of the other things, like with this conversation, and this is like completely agree with, like, build a business where it can make money when you're not working on it. But I know people who that was not their plan, but they made enough money with what they did within the business to just, when I'm done, I can walk away and I've got enough. Right. And so, like, you really need to think about this question from a perspective of what are you willing to do to earn the money that you're going to earn. Right. And you can build a business that largely operates without you. Right. Build the systems, processes, make sure everything's there. But I know people like David Mills specifically, like, he was very much involved with OMG Machines until he didn't need any more money at all. And then he was just like, okay, it's done. I don't plan on selling this. I'm not building it to sell.
For me, it's too risky. My money,
get to where I am. Well, but so
I'm saying for me, this is my perception, my perspective. For me, that's not my path, right? Not saying that's not a path for someone else.
Those are valid ways of going about doing things. And I think many of the people who have, gotten to the place where they can check out and they're done, is from selling a business, right? Building a business that they didn't need to be involved with personally to be done with. But
the guy I work for,
like, if you've got a skill set for building these systems, then build a business, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
But like, for me, like, systems are, they're things I can do when I see them really clearly, but kind of my mind and the way it works, like, I add value when I'm involved with doing these things, and they get turned into systems, which is great. But most of my income right now is coming from consulting.
We're going to get back into a very nice philosophical conversation, and I can go down a deep damn rabbit hole with this for sure, because I see
Can you
very
finish
much
that rabbit hole in 15 minutes.
No, we can't do it today. But no, seriously though, like, I understand that, and I see eye to eye. There are many times where other things look very attractive to me than how life is structured. And I think it's good that this came up for anyone new out there, is that you got to start knowing yourself to actually build the life that you want. And it comes down to being happy at the end of the day, and enjoying the time you're spending on what you're doing. So whatever it is, make sure it's what's right for you, I think, is really what's super, super important here. And if you have skill sets and you want to build a business and you can't do it alone, then you got a long ass road of finding someone you can work with that you can trust to get it done. I mean, it's just the way it works, right? I mean, sometimes we need other people, and sometimes when you need other people screw you, and sometimes they don't. So that's
and
why
it's not like David Mills has no cash flow coming in.
Right.
It's not like he's just like he's got this much money and it goes down every single month. That's not happening. You know, he's got stuff coming. He's living off of his investments at this point, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's still like he got to a place where he didn't even sell businesses, and he's still money's still coming in. Right.
Well, the guy, when I was having dinner, and he was talking about certain investments that just don't suit me, but I know for a fact, dude's set. Like, dude has this plan. Yeah. Dude is like, he's got it. You know, like that's that he kicked ass. There's no question.
Plus, I don't see he had to know that going in that he's not going to be able to sell OMG. Like, what's he going to sell?
That had to be a conscious decision.
Mike Long involved in it going forward? Is Greg Morrison? Is anyone? You know,
all that.
They're the three core guys.
Exactly.
I'm just trying. I'm thinking back to the very beginning when they started.
Exactly. No, that's why I joined. Right.
Yeah.
It was the three of them. Yep.
It was the one-man gang.
Yeah.
3-man gang. But exactly. So it doesn't work without Mike Long just shitting those emails out unless you hire someone that can do that. Without Greg Morrison coming in, I know they phased him out quite a bit at some point, right? Or it seemed like that was their goal. Was to do that.
Pretty involved with what they have going now, which is not OMG machines. It's different businesses, but it's same concept, right?
Yeah, we should come out with NFG machines, Mike. What do you think?
NFG machines. I want the Fletch machine.
Yeah, that's the love machine.
That is the love machine. There, so we're supposed to be talking local SEO. We're going to go philosophical here. I guess the questions we have that have come in through the channel have been about people that are in business rather than in marketing. And so for these questions that came through, like average costs of SEO for like a local business, what do you think a proper campaign should look like for people that want to find a proper campaign and not get scammed and not get sold snake oil or have their money taken, right? What are your thoughts?
If you're talking about like a completely DFY solution, like
done for you solution, absolutely.
So depending on how much you want to have your hands in the clay, of course, there's going to be, there's always going to be ways to outsource all the work to where you can be pretty much hands off.
Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Corey's behind me. I'm just sitting there like making the pot,
massaging those shoulders, telling him to keep going.
Yeah, I'm kind of tight. I can't wait to see you.
Brad's muscles are number one. But yeah, I mean, I use on my campaigns. So I mean, I use a plugin that's been supercharging all of my local clients. During like the build out and everything, that we charge, upwards of like $1,500 a month, like Fletch was talking about. And so, but my cost on that now is drastically reduced. And just because of how the nature of, the software that I use, it does everything that's required minus a little, month one, updates to the homepage. And some stuff like that is and it's pretty much guaranteed. You set certain things up, and you keep going, and it keeps building, and so that is something I would consider more of like a business that I could just set on and go take a vacation and not worry about it. Things could grow while I'm gone, but there's still some hires that have to be made in that process. But I would say like your cost on the high end for doing something like that should is $300, and that would include everything. So and I don't know, I've done several of them on way less than that, but I've done a lot of the work myself. So but full outsourced, I think if you're paying more than $300-400, you're probably paying too much.
Fletch, what do you think about pricing for local SEO?
So like from a business owner's perspective, it's really what you can handle, right? And thinking back to like when I was doing construction work, like I couldn't really handle that many jobs. That's why I got into selling leads, right? I was generating a bunch of stuff.
Much more scalable.
And I was just selling phone calls to my subs and things like that. And so it kind of depends on the person and where they are. Like if you're a business owner and you can handle another, $30,000 or $40,000 a month, you're looking at paying probably 10, 12, 15% even in what you can handle. Take on a really good SEO provider that can get you to that level of revenue. And, just generally with business, if you're spending between 10 and 20% on marketing, which SEO kind of is marketing, right? Fits in that ball game.
Kind of.
Like spending that to increase your revenue that much is reasonable. So it depends on what you can take on. Like if you take on 100,000 a month and you really know that, you might be looking at, $9,000-$10,000 a month, even more, service provider, right? Who can do the stuff necessary. But the stuff necessary, it's like you got the setup, you got, getting your entity, so to speak, established well
so
online.
So I'm going to jump in really quick. Sorry for the interruption, because I'm seeing some stuff in some campaigns right now where they're not local, but they're coming in and I've seen a couple recently where people have taken it and they've jumped in at like 60, 70, 80% of their monthly coming in and pushing the campaign. And in these cases, it's successful, but I wonder what people's thoughts are about this. Because in town here, I tell people when they get the calls from all the local marketers and all the local SEOs is that they need to be very careful about what these percentages. I'll see people pitch people 90% of their budget, 90% of their gross, or 90% of their net, 90% of their gross, all these things that is just cutting them down to nothing monthly to eat off of. And there are people sometimes that are desperate enough.
You're saying that people are coming in and pitching a contract,
yes.
SEO marketing
Absolutely.
contract.
I'm talking about
consists of some 90% of someone's net operating.
Yes, exactly. And so it happens a lot in smaller towns. And because I live in a smaller town, like I've done a lot of advocacy and educating people about the freaking sharks out there.
If the income is $300 a month, then that's a decent pitch, though, I guess, right? If it's only like if they're pulling in $3-4 grand.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to that, but what I'm saying is like
they need more help than marketing guy. I feel like if they're only
they don't have the business in the areas that they live in, and that's so you're telling them that essentially the answer is look at your costs and determine what you can spend and take risk if it's necessary, or keep it low until it doesn't need to be low. Like, what are your thoughts there, guys?
Well, like with the raw dollar amount, like Corey said, like if you're not able to spend more than $500 a month to get more clients from organic, then like you're at that level. Like it's going to cost you a higher percentage of your gross gains to bump up a level, so to speak. Right.
Yeah.
But if you're in a larger city or community or a different market where, you're already doing 30, 40, 50, 100,000 a month. And this is the thing too. Like when I got involved with this, I'd made good money, I suppose, in different ways as far as what I earned. But like there's so many businesses out there doing, $1 million, $2 million a year. Right. And in that way, a $5,000, $8,000 SEO campaign, it's like, oh, that makes sense if it makes sense. And so then being able to go in and seeing, kind of relatively how many new clients are out there that you're not in front of, that maybe what you view as your competitors are getting as far as traffic, and you're not getting that traffic. You got to determine what that's worth, right?
So should we take that business if we're aware someone's spending that much of their operating capital and their bank account, essentially?
I've told people no before.
Me too, and that's why I guess I want people to understand.
That's why I don't like if I'm in a circle of friends or like someone new.
Exactly.
Like, we're in their circle of friends or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, you do internet marketing?" I was like, "They'll talk to me."
No, not.
I'd say that before they even say that, but
yeah.
it's like no. Please.
I gotta, unless there's anything anyone has to get out here, I have to ship this to the question that was asked like 5 times. The future and scope of SEO and affiliate sites. What do you guys see the future and scope of SEO and affiliate sites as?
Like,
Is
one
it
of
dying?
the things that, no, I'm still doing this because this is like clearly a better decision for making money than anything else I'm going to do. With what I do in that regard, where 5-6 years ago is primarily about links. It's not that it's not about links now, but I pay more attention to the content, right? And so I've kind of brought that in and understood kind of clusters and NLP.
It's not about links until it's about links.
Yeah. We talked about this on one of the previous episodes we ran. It's like, well, do what you know how to do well, and if that doesn't get you the results, then bring in a different thing to the mix.
And if you know how to do nothing well, then do that.
Yeah, sit around, watch Netflix.
I know how to do that.
I can do nothing with the best of them.
Yeah. So, from my perspective and based on kind of the path I've been on, the reason I'm looking more at content and really focusing on the user right now is that's a reasonable place to be, right? We're trying to make money for the business. That requires a customer to engage with content on the internet that they found and choose to do business with the clients that we have, right? It's always a decent place to be.
That gets you out of the churn and burn quite a bit too.
Looking at it like this, there's always, take the label away from affiliate, what affiliate is, take the label away from what SEO is. I don't think there's ever going to not be a need for someone that understands what search engines are doing and how to get traffic, and also understands technical aspects of how to make that happen and pays attention to that, right?
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, if it's not a passion that someone doesn't have and they don't want to learn about it and they don't want to become better at what they do, maybe it's not the future for someone that just wants a quick dollar and wants a work from home opportunity. Maybe it's dead as a work from home opportunity for people. I don't think so. I'm not saying that, but I mean, for me, maybe it comes down to the fact that how much you want to put in. I think you get out what you put in personally, I guess is where I'm at. So I don't know what's your guys' business. Do you have an opinion or?
Yeah. In terms of affiliate, I'm always my own worst enemy. Because I come from a background of online retail, and so I'm always in love with the idea of affiliate. I'm like, let's forget doing fulfillment, just make the page and take that 6% commission. But then I find myself saying, well, damn, the marketing cost to sell a unit and get 6% is the exact same marketing cost to source from China and make 80%. So if I'm going to pay the exact same marketing costs, why don't I just source from China directly and make the 80% instead? And so I usually end up quitting affiliate because the easier money is in sourcing. But then I hate
it's because you have the sourcing background though, and you have that experience.
Yeah, see, that's implicit to you, and to me it sounds like a freaking nightmare, bro.
Well, it is. I hate I don't actually hate the idea of doing the fulfillment. When I was doing it as a small, side hustle out of my garage, I actually loved it. I'd come home, I'd pack up orders, and I'd take them to the post office on my way into work. As a side hustle, it's really kind of the easier, better money. But as a job, I didn't love it. I love the marketing problems better than the fulfillment center problems.
I appreciate what you're saying right now, Ted. And I've done that. And there's something completely different that you get a brand new education on actually optimizing a site for conversions.
Absolutely.
And different ways when you are actually the one who has gone out, sourced a product, ordered thousands of units, you're sitting on them in your garage. So we did this last year with my kids, and we did that exact same thing. I brought them all in
slave labor in the garage,
and it
What's
works.
Slave labor in the garage.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
it works
That's
at a
how I
lot
do
of different scales. Like when I first got into online retail, I was sourcing stuff that you could get for between, 5 cents and 25 cents a unit. And I was able to turn around and sell those same products for $25 each with free shipping in the US. And
Nice.
so I could replace an order with
But that's all
time
day.
and
That's
packing
all day.
materials
It's a
and
good
tracking
it's a
codes.
good it's a good point, because I have to sit there and look at what my wife does with her Amazon stuff, her Etsy stuff, and her stores. And she has something that she does with her daughter and her mom that they like to do, and then she's created the storefronts for this, and she makes more money than a lot of people in this town do at their day job, just by having like an hour or two a month sitting down making product with her mother and her daughter, right? And now she's
I can't wait. I can't wait till my kids are old enough to start selling the crap that we can buy off of Alibaba at school.
No doubt. Seriously, get the hustle.
They've got to be getting
But from
close,
that
right?
note, I think that's a great way to answer this, is that there is absolutely, and what Clint said goes right to it, there's always going to be a need to gather traffic and make something work properly and optimize it. And if you look at it from optimization, affiliate might, for me, I classify this all as just making money. Affiliate might become the percent or a joint venture that you have with someone sourcing for you, and now it is your property. I think what might be harder these days, and I can't speak to this because I'm not new, is that I don't think do you think people have the same opportunity to come in and get their hands in a bunch of different stuff quickly? To be doing, we've all done, at least I think in here, we've all done product sourcing, we've all done like some data sale, we've all done some call sale, we've all done some client work. Does that happen for people anymore, or was that like when we started? Are we old now, or is that opportunity still there?
I know I'm old.
One of the things I look at with affiliate is like you've got to really develop a relationship with your list, right? The people that you're in front of. And I won't say you have to, but like that's still an opportunity. It's always going to be an opportunity, to be somebody that people look to for the right advice. Like if that's the thing you're really good at, there's absolutely an opportunity there now and will be for a long time. Like we think Elon Musk or, whoever, Ty Lopez or some random name that people might have name recognition with. When
Joshua Fletcher.
Well, it's like this big, right? So, if that's a thing you do, then yeah, there's a way to do that, but then really try to understand that more properly, right? And understand the value you bring to the discussion is like, that's what you're going to get paid on, right? You're going to get paid based on the value that you create and bring to the interaction and engagement that you have with however you're interacting with a list, with a website, with a whatever. And like, as far as affiliate goes, it's not really been something that I've done much of. I've done some, I've made some money with it, but the times when it worked really well, there were times when, people knew me in a certain capacity and I was talking about things I really knew and I was passionate about, I used.
I mean, shit, how much money did OMG make from affiliate, on a monthly basis?
Well, almost all of our sales were from affiliates. Bob Proctor, Ty.
No, I mean, but then you had revenue and then coming in from you're being an affiliate for those people.
Yeah, it's really reciprocal in that.
It is.
It's a networking thing. It's not MLM. I hate when people compare it to MLM because I'm not a fan of MLM. Like, get away from me with the MLM. I don't want to talk about it. No, thank you.
Would you like to try my juice, Mike?
Yeah, I would love it. Can I get your makeup too?
Yeah, please.
So I'm going to say, we got to answer.
Hey, what are those sunglasses, Brad? Right?
His future's bright.
I can send you a link.
SEO's future is bright because Brad has sunglasses on. But that, I guess, is the short answer because we got to kill the stream. But yeah, there is a future in SEO optimization, site optimization, and making money online. And some of that could absolutely come from affiliate revenue with people. Whether you go into a program and deal with a manager or you make personal relationships, that's all what neither here nor there. But diversification of revenue is key. keep your
It will
eyes
save
open.
your ass in the
Yeah.
in the midst of a downturn in a specific area.
In
you know?
a COVID pandemic, it will save your
Correct.
ass too.
Yeah, your
So
clients will drop you, but people still keep paying for leads. That's why I love PPL. So
they need divorce attorneys and crime scene cleanup. All right.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone. Ted, thanks for coming. Josh, Corey, Brad, thanks for coming, guys. We'll see you next week. Clint, go away.
See you guys. Thanks for